Present.
Keith Batman,
Present.
Hans Petcher,
Here.
Terry Baxter,
Aye.
Joseph Bennett,
Present.
Frank Reginelli,
Present.
Patrick Mahonik,
Here.
Timothy Lattimore,
Here.
Michael Didio is excused, Ryan Foley,
Here.
Michael Chapman.
Here, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silent prayer? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Did you want to read the death notice? You want me to? Yeah. No, that's, yes.
Our condolences to Andrew Fusco's family.
I'd like to open up a public hearing. It's 6:37. This is to adopt a local law for the year 2015, amending local law for the year 2012, local law for the year 2009, amending local law number 5 of 2007, and amending local law number 3 of 1994. This is to continue the room tax for 3 years. Anyone wish to speak to that subject? Okay, if not, we've got a couple of presentations on tap. The first one will be from members of NISAC, and I will turn it over to Mr. Bob Pass.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bob Pass, and I am NISAG's Regional Manager for Community Outreach and Development. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Cayuga County Legislature regarding the Auburn Transmission Project, or ATP. NISAG, together with National Grid, is proposing a 14.5-mile electric transmission project from the city of Auburn to the town of Elbridge along existing electric transmission rights-of-way in those localities in the towns of Throop, Brutus, and Senate, and the village of Elbridge. The project is comprised of several components, including a new 14.5-mile, 115 kilovolt KV line from the city of Auburn to the town of Elbridge, the modification of 3 existing transmission lines within the right-of-way in a 10.3-mile section from the town of Throop to the town of Elbridge, and the rebuilding an existing 4.2-mile line from the city of Auburn to the town of Throop, as well as some associated work at NISAG's State Street Substation and National Grid's Elbridge Substation. Providing safe, reliable electricity and natural gas to our customers is our top priority. NISAG serves more than 37,000 electricity customers in Cayuga County, including more than 16,000 in the area around the city of Auburn, who will directly benefit from this important reliability project. The transmission project is needed to address reliability issues in the city of Auburn and the surrounding area, including past issues with flicker and how that affects Nucor Corporation. The project is needed whether or not the Cayuga Power Plant in the town of Lansing continues to operate. We are in the process of seeking an Article 7 certificate from the New York State Public Service Commission, or PSC, for approval to construct the project. This process involves extensive review that includes opportunities for public involvement. The process, in fact, embodies the very purpose of the resolution before the legislature, to consider the potential impacts of the project on landowners along the proposed route. We are committed to this process and do not object to the intent of the resolution. The need for the Auburn Transmission Project is clear, and there is certainly merit to using existing utility corridors for such projects. Our challenge is to balance the need for the project with the concerns of property owners and neighbors. We are respectful of the needs of all neighboring landowners, and we've had numerous discussions with many of the families along the project route. In addition, we have conducted numerous public outreach and notification efforts, including direct mailings, newspaper notices, placement of project documents in local public libraries, property owner site visits, New York State Department of Public Service hosted public statement hearings, face-to-face meetings, as well as phone and email contacts with state and local elected officials, landowner requests for property visits, and will continue to do all that we can to address their concerns. We thank you for the opportunity to provide this statement.
Any members of the legislature have any questions? Mr. Farrell?
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Couple questions for you, because I represent the town of Brutus, and I've had conversations with my residents, and they have concerns, particularly like on Tanner Road area, where you do have an existing right-of-way. The second section of the proposed line would parallel an existing National Grid transmission line for approximately 10.3 miles. And I think that's what the town of Brutus passed as a board, the resolution is just asking
Right.
if that right-of-way could be used rather than infringing on those residents in that area that we'd be going through, clearing out trees where it's an economic impact for one gentleman that produces maple syrup over in that area.
Right.
People have concerns in regards to the resale value of their house with the size of the towers that are going through and whatnot. And I understand, you know, in your letter, you have no objection to the intent of our resolution, which is just
That's correct.
we're asking the Public Service Commission to take into account, you know, the concerns of these residents. So the big question I'm getting from everybody
Sure.
is, why can't we use that right-of-way that you have now rather than going with something different?
Well, we're utilizing mostly existing right-of-way. In the situation with Tanner Road, we have had meetings with some of the property owners on Tanner Road who have maple syrup producing business and have maple syrup producing trees. And we have worked with them, and because of some of the discussions and interactions we've had with some of the neighbors on Tanner Road, we are looking at moving the line to the south. So I just wanted to mention that we have several core members of the Auburn Transmission Project team here tonight to help answer all the questions that you might have with the legislature. They're over here. Can I just call on some of them to better explain? But we definitely are working with all the residents on Tanner Road, and we are proposing to relocate the line. So it will not impact them, and it will have very little impact on the town of Brutus as a whole
Thank you.
because of those discussions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think that's all that this body is asking for, the town of Brutus is asking for, and those residents are asking for in that petition, is that their voice be heard and they have that dialogue with you. And if there is an alternative, that such, you know, concessions could be made. So I
Yes.
appreciate that dialogue that you've created with them and whatnot. So thank
And again, we're trying to work with all property owners. We're listening to their concerns. That's why, you know, we basically support the intent of your resolution. And that's going to continue. The site visits are going to continue. There's issues that have to be ironed out, and we're still in that process of easement acquisition. The process has been going fairly well, and that's where we are right now. But that interaction with property owners and neighbors along the proposed route will continue.
Appreciate that, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Vitale?
Yes, thank you for coming. I represent the people in along Potter Road in the town of True, and I've been supporting our resolution from the beginning because our feeling is that you have right-of-ways, and we would hope that you could do as much within those existing right-of-ways, so there's less impact on economics and everything else in our county and our towns and everything. And so my question is, can New York State Electric and Gas and National Grid do what has to be done within the existing right-of-ways?
Could I call on one of our members of the team to maybe address that question? As far as using existing corridors and...
We are attempting to use existing corridors to the best we can. For a portion of the National Grid right-of-way, we have in fact placed structures within
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Lattimore?
Bob, it's nice that you're here tonight to answer some of these questions. As chairman of the county's power authority, I mean, the governor has put together an energy highway, and part of that is more on-site generation versus, with the storm events that we've had, Sandy and what have you, the longer the transmission of the electron, you lose a lot of it during transmission, and if we do have a storm event, it's easier to take down the power. So reliability would be better served with the governor's view with on-site generation. And I mean, there's a lot of jobs that are down at the power plant. I'd love to see it, go from coal, which is environmentally not the safest thing to burn, but to go to gas, which is a lot better for the environment, to keep those jobs in that tax base, and to produce those elements in New York State versus bringing them in from Canada or some other long-distance role. I mean, does NYSEG have any plans of shortening the length of the spans?
Well, again, we believe that the Auburn Transmission Project is the best option, the best alternative to improving system reliability, especially in the Auburn area. I mentioned how many customers we serve in Cayuga County and in the Auburn area. We feel this is a much better option than the repowering Cayuga option, and again, they're totally separate issues. I can tell you, though, that our company is very involved with looking at opportunities as far as with the REV proceedings, with the New York Prize, the governor's New York Prize about microgrid system installations. We're looking at a number of opportunities with either microgrid systems, combined heat and power, distributed generation. That activity is still going on, even though, again, our main focus here is the Auburn Transmission Project. And again, we believe that this transmission line, this project, is going to improve system reliability that will benefit all customers in Cayuga County, Onondaga County, and of course here in the city of Auburn. One of your major customers here, Nucor Steel, this will definitely be a benefit to them, and with the flicker issue that many of us have seen or dealt with. So that's where we are with that. I mean, we're going to continue to look at opportunities as far as distributed generation, but right now we're committed to moving forward with the Auburn Transmission Project. Does anyone else from our team want to add anything to those comments? Or?
I'm Tim Lynch, I'm manager of system planning for NYSEG, and I can tell you that reliability issue is a real issue. Regardless of the status of Cayuga, if it keeps operating, there's very definite concerns for the city of Auburn going into this summer with reliance on that generation, reliance on the line that's going to be rebuilt under this project. The proposed line, the additional line, excuse me again, that's going into the right-of-way provides that redundancy, and the existing line is going to be upgraded to a larger size. So the system problems are real, and the risk of not being able to serve customers in the summer, it's a real concern. And so we have a lot of things that are going on in the state, a lot of programs, the energy highway and the things that Bob mentioned, the REP proceeding. These are a lot of good things, but this reliability problem is real, it's current. We have a project to fix it, and we're, it's our best bet for now.
Thanks, Tim.
Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, Bob, thank you very much, and other members of the team, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Chairman Chapman. Appreciate it. Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone that wishes to speak with regard to the public hearing on the preservation of the room tax for 3 more years?
Mr. Chairman, we have
Mr.
somebody.
Lattimore.
We have somebody in the audience, Mary Ellen Slade is the Vice President and General
procurement manager of Nucor Steel. She served in this position since March of 2010. Nucor Steel operates a steel recycling manufacturing facility in Auburn. It uses electrical arc furnace. It melts approximately 1 billion pounds of post-consumer steel scrap annually and produces a variety of commercial products with the recast steel. Nucor is power intensely driven of the economic activity in the region, community, and employs 312 people, which we do not want to affect. And I think she wanted the privilege of the floor, if that's possible.
Okay, very good. Ms. Sled?
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Mary Emily Slate, and I'm the Vice President and General Manager of Nucor Steel Mill in Auburn. As many of you know, as Mr. Lattimore explained to us, Nucor uses electricity. That is a huge power source for us to melt and recycle steel scrap to make new commercial products. Because Nucor is a very large energy user, reliable electric service is critical to our operation, and we pay close attention to any electric system issues. And here's what I can tell you about the proposed new transmission line and upgrades that the utilities propose. First, NYSEG identified a need for transmission upgrades in Auburn over 5 years ago. From our perspective, the new line and upgrades that have been proposed are actually the minimum improvements necessary to assure reliability to everyone in the area and to keep the lines from overloading in the summertime based on residential and business loads that we have currently. And that doesn't even address the business that we would like to grow in Auburn. Next, regardless of what may happen concerning the proposed repowering of the Cayuga power plants, these transmission upgrades are needed for system reliability anyway. An inadequate local grid could affect everyone in this region, but it would wreak havoc with Nucor's steelmaking operations. Simply put, the proposed system upgrades are needed and probably overdue. Finally, Nucor agrees that all reasonable measures should be taken to mitigate potential impacts on affected landowners. It is my understanding that one of the basic purposes of the process underway before the Public Service Commission is to identify and address those concerns. And we believe that the agency staffs engaged in that process are working closely with the utilities to accomplish that, which we heard about tonight. Thank you so much for your time and for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Could you leave it with us? We put it with us. Parts of your statement, could you leave it with us? This is, thank you.
Any other legislator have anyone that wishes to speak on this subject? If not, we'll move to the second presentation. Mr. Wayne Bishop for CH4 with regards to our digester operation. Mr. Bishop?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm Wayne Bishop with CH4 Energy, president of CH4, and I've been working with Cayuga to put the digester project back into operation, the county of Cayuga. And I'd like to speak with you guys a little bit tonight about kind of what our vision is to put this project back into operation. So we've got a presentation up here. I'll go through it. So a little bit about the concept is really it's about securing a power purchase agreement with the county of Cayuga. It's also about providing a secure financial foundation for the project through the PPA that we'd like to strike. And then also about potentially net metering additional meters that were at the county currently underneath the net metering program. Then also to provide a hedge on energy pricing for the county of Cayuga. That's the overall objective of putting the digester project back into service. So with that said, some of the objectives we'd like to go over today are the project objectives, the goals. I want to go over kind of the historically the campus historical energy consumption, some ideas about net metering, and about the PPA proposed for Cayuga, and a little bit about why we should do this, and local economic impacts, putting this project back together. So, the first thing is just really, what is the vision? Our vision is kind of one and the same with the County of Cayuga, the Saltwater Conservation District, and that's putting this project back into operations. It's been shut down for a while. It didn't run for a very short time, but CH4 Energy has been doing digesters. I've only been doing digesters now for about 8 years. I mean, this has been what I do day in and day out, is build digester projects. I'm actually a project developer, finance, build, construct, own, and operate. So we think we bring the expertise to this project level to put it back into operation and make the county really proud to have this asset here working and generating revenue in a 20-year, at least a 20-year time frame. So really, we're talking about securing long-term feedstocks and offtake agreements that provides the economic foundation for this project. And we'll go into a little bit of that. Securing additional capital to set this project up for success. We're trying to bring in additional capital to put a back-end system on the digester to generate a third revenue stream. We're really talking about creating compost on the back end and bedding for animals for the dairies. So that actually is where we're putting a lot of the capital back in the project to set the back end up. And then we're also, this is really, it's installing an area static pile composter is what we're talking about. And then selling the compost and energy locally to drive local economic development. So trying to keep as much of the dollars here as we possibly can. And then putting people to work. These are great paying jobs. These are nice educated jobs. And I think it really complements what we're trying to get done. So the goal is to really, is with the County of Cayuga, is we're here to talk about putting a 10-year power purchase agreement together. And that's what we'd like to talk about today. It's about the county also heat and sells in a 10-year term as well. So not just electricity, but also the heat to go back to the jail, the public buildings for heat. And then also with NYSEG, we're trying to talk with them about a 10-year PPA as well. So for the excess energy. And we'll talk about what that excess energy is in just a minute. Manure feedstocks, we're working on an LOI with the current dairies to get those underneath the 10-year tenor. And then also food waste feedstocks. We've been talking with the prison. We've been talking with the Grana. All these folks are interested. Grana is really interested. They both have a liquid fraction and a solid fraction. They want to do a long-term contract with us. And then taking the compost and the bedding back to hedge to some degree. So some of it could be spot sales and some of it could be long contract sales. I used to work for one of the largest composters in North America, and we sold out our compost every year. We could never make enough. So I'm pretty sure we can get contracts for this stuff locally. So just a little bit of look at what the energy looks like. This is kind of an energy profile at Cayuga now at the campus. This is inclusive of the public building, the nursing home, the main building, and the maintenance shop. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what their load consumption looks like. And then this really kind of starts telling the story. So this is the actual historical use over 2014. And you can see here we've got on the far left-hand side about 1.6 million kilowatt hours for the public building. The nursing home is the next smaller block at 817,000 kilowatt hours, 91,000 for the main building, and a small 23,000 for the maintenance shop. It all stacks up to about 2.6 million kilowatt hours. And I'll talk about the significance of that in just a second. So the other thing we're looking at doing is off-site net metering. So this is actually taking the excess energy from the project, and the reason why I say that is because we got the county building, we've got the old post office, and the Mental building, and all of those kind of stack up to about another 2.3 million kilowatt hours. When you take a look at that next to the generation, this is where it becomes very interesting, because right now the generator produces about 5.2 million kilowatt hours a year, base loaded. Okay. So if you take a look at, what's interesting is if you stack up, so there's a full generator output, full load, 5.2 million. If you stack up all the loads, including the net metering with additional meters at the county, it's almost a perfect fit. I mean, we're 4.9 million kilowatt hours. It's just so close, I couldn't even imagine when I started looking at the numbers. So the question is, these other two blocks, if we weren't selling this energy to the rest of the county, which it kind of makes sense to do so. I mean, it's your digester, it's your waste, it's our waste that's here. Why not put it back to best use to offset the additional load at the county level? If we don't do it, then we're selling 2.5 million kilowatt hours to NYSEG, which is fine, but it really kind of is more of a compelling story to keep it all locally here, it really kind of fits well with the project and its intent for a regional digester. It just seems like the right way to go is a contract with the county, and that's what we're here to propose. So basically, selling the renewable energy back to Cayuga. Sorry about it should be 8.5 cents. 8.5 cents a kilowatt hour is what we're looking to do. That's actually, it's a pretty good price. It's what they're currently paying now. And also the additional net metering at 8.5 cents. Trying to do it with a 10-year PPA with a possible 10-year extension is what we'd be asking. And this provides the hedge for Cayuga to lock in your energy pricing. So we think it's a great deal, and that's what we're here about. And then, so our question is, why should we do this? Because in CH4's opinion, and I think one in the county's opinion, it's a great story. It really fits well. This is what this digester was intended for, was to produce energy locally and consume energy locally as well. And then by taking the compost and going back to grow more organic material, fruits and vegetables and what have you, it kind of completes the organic cycle. So we think it's a great fit. If we do this, and we do this successfully, as we suspect we will, I could see all of the press coming out of the doors looking at this project. I mean, I've had other projects that I've developed in, biomass, or American Biogas Council magazines, Biocycle. These are all big, heavy hitters out there that are here to, publicize the success of these kind of projects. So we think they'd be on our doorsteps, want to know the story about how this worked. If we don't work together, then I'm afraid that this could be another failed AD project. And there's been enough of these already that we don't need anymore. AD is kind of a new technology that came over from Europe. It's really primarily been used in wastewater treatment plants. It's kind of new as far as a standalone business. So we really need to make sure the energy stays here, is successful, and that we can launch more projects in the future. So the kind of economical impacts of this project are 10 full-time jobs. That's about $650,000 a year to local community. Electricity sales about 417. Compost sales about 1.6. That's a combination of inbound and outbound. Construction's about 3.8. That's where we plan to put in the capital for the project on the back end to set it up. We're making the compost. So year one, we're talking about $6.5 million locally stimulation into this county. Then year two, thereafter, is about $2 million. So if you look at the 20-year kind of stimulation, it's a $45 million stimulation to Cayuga County. We think that's a great, great story. And so that's the pitch. And this is what we're asking. We're asking to put this project back together here, use our own waste, bring the compost back to grow more organics to complete the organic cycle, create jobs, provide all that energy back to here, and CH4 is really trying to get this project to go. So this is our ask of the council today and everybody's consideration.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bishop? Mr. Lattimore?
Very nice presentation, and I totally agree with you that that's the intent of what the digester was for, was to produce energy, especially reduce some of our overhead on that campus. Now, you know that the voters overwhelmingly voted, 20 years ago to have a power utility program that we can move that power around to our different buildings or anywhere within the county, and we are going to play a part in this proposal, correct?
Yes, sir. That's what we're looking to do.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask either you, Wayne, or Terry, as a board member, Soil and Water, when are we gonna get real details? Is there gonna be another presentation at planning?
We didn't, at this time, Chairman, we did not have another presentation scheduled. I think Mr. Bishop's intent at this point was to get a feel and a verbal that we're interested, that whether we think it would work or not. He's been working the last couple of months to set up financing, and those people need to know that we're on board with the program.
Well, in the course of the presentation, I think there's a lot of areas here that need to be, digested, if you will, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
But, dissected as well. I mean, you're talking about it, you want a 10-year power agreement, what you propose to do maybe with the jail and heat and this and that and the other thing. I think we're gonna need some details. I don't know if you have those that you can share at some point in the near future, because the devil is always in the details,
Sure. Yeah.
and we're gonna have to
Right.
drill down.
Right.
You know, we're in a situation, and there's some, you know, serious financial considerations as to, you know, that status, with soil and water and the digester right now, before, you know, moving ahead, so. Will details be available here shortly, or should we
Absolutely.
compile a list for you, or,
I'm open to whatever it takes to get this project across the finish line, I really am. We have started going through some of the details, sir. We've started talking about, we've got an LOI that we've drafted between us and Cayuga County. We've got LOIs between the farmers for the feedstocks, same thing with the Grana. I've got bank letter commitments along with equity to finance the project, so there has been a lot of work done on this thing in a very short amount of time. And this thing was only publicized 2 months ago, roughly, that we got notified that we're kind of the preferred person to go, the company to go forward with. So there has been a lot of work done. There is a lot of details, you're right. But we're really looking for a commitment for Cayuga that says they're willing to stand behind this project on a 10-year tenor for a PPA, because we need that for the banks to invest the capital in this project.
Mr. Lattimore?
I think this body had given you a bridge loan, or gave Soil and Water a bridge loan. I think that the repayment of that is gonna be, Doug, if you wanna just, is that gonna be $100,000 a year until it's paid off, or?
That's how it's scheduled and structured right now.
Because it's on a bond note, and it will be paid down? And I think that that's what this body was concerned about, was the getting repaid for that project. That's my understanding.
Yeah, and I can tell you that we have somewhat of a structured deal with Cayuga now to pay back that debt. I mean, we're planning to pay back, to use that asset from the cash proceeds off the project. So there's definitely, I think, all the things are kind of lined up for the county to get paid, for the debt to get paid off at the county level, and also for us to take over the asset to monetize it.
So is your proposal to purchase or to lease this operation?
We've got a lot of discussions going on. Nothing's really been locked down at this point. It's been more of what can we do, what can't we do, what makes
Right.
most sense for the county. There's a lot of synergies between CH4 Energy and the county working together, so we're trying to take advantage of that and work through those details. So nothing's been finalized yet. That's still open. But I can tell you that we're taking very, very good look at that and what we need to do to get this thing done, pulling financially back to the debt that the county has on the project.
Jerry?
Mr. Chairman, I took it upon myself to set this up for Mr. Bishop to come out here to a full ledge meeting, just so that all the legislators would all get an opportunity at one time. I'm sure he's available for anything that we need to set up. I just figured if everybody heard it the first time, then the questions are asked and answered as we go on, and not individual groups maybe getting misdirected or misinformation because they didn't all hear it at the same time.
Mr. Lattimore?
I think, to go along with what Terry's trying to say, is I think in order to go forward, that you wanted like a vote of confidence, saying the concept of being repaid is a good one, and utilizing that asset to its fullest is a good one, and that we should vote maybe in favor of proceeding.
That's exactly it. Yep, that's what we're looking for.
Mr. Petra?
I guess I have a question for the attorney. Can we contract something like this for 10 years? I'm going back to my town days and, not being able to bind the legislature and all this stuff.
Well, also keep in mind that the digester is owned by the Cayuga County Soil and Water Conservation District, not by the county.
Right.
The county's interest is, I guess, the debt at some level. So this is new to me, and I have been developing a couple more questions. Can the county enter into some type of agreement? Sure. If it's longer than 5 years, they would have to pass a local law. That can be done. And that would, as you say, bind future legislators, but there are a couple steps once we get to that point.
Any other questions? We have your contact information?
I'll make sure you get it, sir.
Good, thanks very much.
Thank you.
7:10, does anybody wish to speak with regard to the public hearing on reserving the room tax. Okay, moving right along. Saved. We have some, we're gonna do some fun things now. We're gonna recognize the folks from Leadership Cayuga. If you'd all please stand, we have Julie Fulong, Marie Montgomery, Chris Moulton, Russ D'Amico, and Ryan Carr with us tonight. So if you could stand. Thanks very much for participating. Madam Clerk, we have proclamations.
Lynn Mosier Day in Cayuga County. Lynn worked for Cayuga County for over 42 years and was presented with a proclamation last week. Jean Bennett Shoemaker Day in Cayuga County. Jean, I'm not sure how long she's been volunteering.
25 years.
25 years has volunteered over in the historian's office. Federation of New York Insurance Professionals Week. They were presented and she picked up her proclamation a couple days ago. And I would like to call up Charlie Randall for Workers' Memorial Day.
Come on right up, Charlie.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
I'd like to read this proclamation to honor Workers' Memorial Day for 2015. Whereas every year, tens of thousands of American workers are killed by workplace injuries and occupational disease, and whereas thousands more are permanently disabled, millions are injured or become ill as a result of workplace hazards, and whereas 4 decades ago, Congress passed the Occupational Safety and Health Act, promising every worker the right to a safe job. And whereas unions and allies have fought hard to make that promise a reality, winning protection, they have made jobs safer, saved hundreds of thousands of lives, and prevent millions of workplace injuries and illnesses. Whereas we recognize and celebrate Workers' Memorial Day on the 28th day of April each year with this year's theme, Mourn for the Dead, Fight for the Living. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Michael H. Chapman, Chairman of the Cayuga County Legislature, and fellow legislators, on behalf of the working men and women of the County of Cayuga, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, April 28, 2015, as Workers' Memorial Day in Cayuga County, and encourage all Cayuga County citizens to join in remembering fallen workers and to do everything possible to prevent future tragedies.
We're going to have the meeting on April 28th at 10 o'clock at Hoops Park to commemorate the guys, and anybody who wishes to attend, they can. We'll have some donuts, and we probably will have a legislator or somebody talking for us, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Now we have another fun event, an Employee First Award. Mr. Russell, where is he? Here he comes. And Christy, would you please come on over here and join us?
Okay. For those,
Give right up to the mic.
okay. Just a heads up, if you aren't aware of this, the Employees First Award is a program that was designed by our employees to acknowledge employees who are doing excellent things, or are providing excellent service and doing particularly good things in the workplace. And tonight we have the honor of honoring one of our own, Christy Capone. Allow me to read this. This is from the nomination form that nominated Christy. Christy temporarily took on the responsibility of deputy clerk to the legislative board, including several night meetings a month, worked closely with legislators to get business accomplished. She has a wonderful personality, a great communication skills, and was a great asset to this office. So. And we have just some tokens of our appreciation. sticker so everyone will know that you're a great employee. And
Expect that in the car tonight.
and a little token for her to utilize. Thank you for your service.
I gotta say that this was a little experiment, and it worked out better than perfect. I've got to thank Sheila, I've got to thank Jim Orman as well. When we were talking about Amanda, our other deputy, so to speak, who was gonna be out for a period of time, we had some conversations about, gee, could we look around in-house to see if we could find somebody that might be able to fill in? And so thanks to Sheila and Jim, had some conversations about folks that might be available. Christy seemed like a great fit. She was better than a perfect fit. She saved me many days. And I gotta tell you, and you, it's really amazing, Christy, that you came down, you dug in, and you mastered it in no time at all. So again, thank you very much for your help. I would be remiss in not mentioning, earlier today, about 11:30, we gathered on the fourth floor in the health department. Sometimes it's the health department. And at that time, employee recognition was given to Patricia Cuff and Renee Butler for their outstanding work and going above and beyond their normal duties. And I just repeat what I said to those folks earlier and to you, Christy. We take a few minutes to say thanks to our employees, but they really add value, not only to the service and to the team that they belong to here within Cayuga County as an employee, but they add value to the community. And I think that speaks volumes to what we kind of overlook every day. But hopefully, we're going to continue this program until the end of time, and you know, we'll keep bringing forth all these great folks. So that's it. Thank you. Public to be heard. Any legislator have anyone that wishes to speak? Okay.
Minutes for approval, February 24th and February 25th.
Mr. Bennett, would you like to move to?
Move the minutes, please.
To strike those. Okay, a second, Mr. Runkle. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And we have a report from the college. And we have Vice President Hutchinson here tonight. You don't have this memorized? You don't? Everybody had the Dr. DeCinque's report. Are there any questions on it? I guess not. Good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Doctor. Committee reports and individual legislator reports. Mr. Runkle.
The other thing I need to add a little bit on the college side is on the budget world of the college, we're doing very well this year. We're basically on budget. Diane and the group is working toward establishing next year's budget, which looks like we've got a couple of options there. So college is sitting in much better shape today than it was 2 years ago.
Good, thanks. Anyone else? Mr. Baxter.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to comment on the Soil and Water Board meetings that we've been having, along with Mr. Bishop, and say that we had interviews with several proposals and the people that came with them. CR4 matched our goals and what the digester was set up for initially the best. That's why we brought him here tonight. And having an agreement with the county would be the simplest, most economical way to go, because we're already hooked up, we're already serving the county electricity. And I guess the reason I'm speaking up now is if it wasn't improper, I'd like a show of hands of the legislators who at this point support moving forward down this road so that at least Mr. Bishop would be leaving with the idea that we were or were not, at least somewhat in step with him at
So
this
you would
time.
like a straw poll?
I would.
Okay, Mr. Foley.
I think many more details are required before we show whether we are in general support or not. That's just my general opinion.
Mr. Lattimore?
Well, the cost of electricity is going to go up, and anytime you can lock in for a 10-year, 8.5-cent rate, is probably a wise thing to do. And if this new company can pay back the loan and serve the campus out there with 8.5-cent rate, I think even Mr. Pass would say that's a pretty good deal. So I would be in favor, as chairman of CAPUSA, to say to Terry, I'm in favor of making sure that the county got paid back its bridge loan and that we had reasonable rates going forward for the next 10 years.
Let me ask this.
Yes, sir.
Would it be fair to say to the body that this show of hands would be to conduct further exploration on the project?
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone wishing to express their interest in continuing exploration, please raise your hand. Okay, looks like you got it there. Looks like there's pretty good interest.
That was easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other legislators that have reports they'd like to make? From any boards? Mr. Whitman?
It's been reported that as of yesterday, Fairhaven still has 20 inches of ice on the bay. Anybody looking to do any ice fishing until about June, we should be sufficient in the ice.
Okay. All right, no one else.
Right,
Mr. Foley?
Yeah, the tourism board is doing very well. They are here tonight to show their support for the occupancy tax resolution. With that said, can I just see a show of hands from the people that are here from the tourism board that are, okay, thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Lattimore?
The Power Authority for the county is trying to work with the governor in regards to the New York prize money that he's dangled in front of everybody, and hopefully we can capture some of that with some vision of what we want to be when we grow up. And I think it would create a lot of jobs. I was at the groundbreaking with the governor out in Buffalo when he took a brownfield for Republic Steel, talking about a steel mill, and is going to make solar panels for the world, state of the art. So I think this next generation of products that are going to come out, renewables, I had some of the governor's people today down with a new concept in the wind power business that could be manufactured right here in Cayuga County and exported to third world companies that don't have a grid, which is extreme profit to the country and the county of Cayuga.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll move along. Madam Administrator.
I was lost in thought. So my report was added to your box. It has in it the monthly budget report, which shows us in the general fund at least roughly at 12% collections on our revenues and 12% in our expenditures. So we're working pretty evenly as planned with the budget. I did not have much to add after you may have received this report at Ways and Means, but it does include everything for those of you who may not have had it before. The multi-year budget is coming together, but we need more. These last couple weeks is important for the department, so I'm mentioning this for the benefit of the department heads who are here. It's important for department heads to make their entries into Munis to try and get this together in a timely way for the ledge. I think there were a couple of things that I put in other as updates from Ways and Means, between that time and now. I did visit the highway garage in Ira yesterday, and that was a very interesting and lively discussion about some of the issues coming up for highway. George and I were able to visit about that this morning. So we've had some issues there relative to implementing one-person plowing, and generally there are suggestions for how to improve efficiency in the highway department. And then I think there was an update included in there about union negotiations, which you might find interesting. And then on a personal note, my team placed third in a spelling bee last Saturday.
Out of how many teams?
There were 12.
You had to
So it wasn't like, 3 out of 3, right? But, and I would challenge anyone in the room who happens to know what contumely means. That was the word we went out on, so.
Okay.
Contumely.
Was that rhetorical, or did you want a definition?
If you know it, I would be very impressed.
Well,
Mr.
after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Put my dictionary.
Do you have anything else you could add about the motor pool situation?
Oh, about the motor pool. Yes, Doug Selby and I have been staying in touch on that. We do have a meeting on Thursday. I am hopeful that we will get some information about what the cost of revisions to the city's facility might be to accommodate co-location. So that's what I would add about that.
Any questions? Good, thank you. With regard to my report, I'll be very brief. Just participated in a regionalization meeting with the Oswego County Legislature. Mr. Runkle, Mr. Batman, Mr. Didio were also there. Ms. Sinclair was there. We're trying to schedule another meeting. We're waiting to hear from Dr. DeCinque about some more numbers that we asked for the finances and looking into the future. Mr. Whitman and I sat through a presentation from a lady from the Amsterdam area who represented a consortium, if you will, that is against larger trucks on the road. And I inquired into the New York State Motor Truck Association as to their position. They're meeting today and tomorrow, and perhaps we'll have some feedback from them. So I forgot to send you that out. Yesterday, along with Mayor Quill and some other interested folks from the Owasco Lake Association, we met with Matt Driscoll from Environmental Facilities with regard to the association's request for funding to try and employ methods that will diminish the amount of phosphate and other undesirable materials that enter Owasco Lake. And we've got a couple of new angles thanks to Mr. Driscoll, and we'll be moving along with that. So with that said, I think that about wraps it up for now. Madam Clerk.
Appointments and reappointments?
Mr. Runkle.
Mr. Chairman, I move we waive the readings of the appointments and reappointments.
Then Mr. Bennett seconds. Any discussion on those? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Communications and announcements?
Mr. Runkle.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we waive the reading of communications and announcements also.
Mr. Bennett makes a second. Any discussion on any of those items? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Before we move into the regular resolutions, does anyone wish to speak in regard to the public hearing on continuing the room tax for 3 years? Okay, thank you. And now, moving into resolutions. Mr. Runkle.
Mr. Chairman, we have our 2 regular monthly resolutions with which authorize the treasurer to pay our invoices from February 10th through March 9th of 2015. All these claims have been audited.
Okay, any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Please continue.
Ways and Means has 4 resolutions. We'll take them individually. Ways and Means number 1, I am pulling tonight. It has been replaced by, and on our agenda, GO3. There was some language that needed to be changed, and we can discuss that when we hit the government operations resolutions. Ways and Means 2 is the resolution petitioning Governor Cuomo and the state legislature to delay the proposed legislation on moving the STAR exemption. This has been through committee and passed.
Okay, any discussion on WM 1 or 2? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
WM4 is a resolution to bond $750,000 in order to undertake the asbestos removal project at the Cayuga Community College.
Okay, this is gonna provide for a little bit of discussion. I think there's a majority of folks who have some discomfort with the word bonding. And I'm gonna ask Mr. Westfall a couple of questions. Is this bonding language required? Is it a requirement? Even if we didn't use the bonding vehicle and wanted to do some short-term or in-house borrowing?
The short answer is yes. In order to do, under the local finance law, in order to take advantage of in-house borrowing or bans or permanent financing, a bond resolution is required.
So if this resolution failed,
If this resolution failed, then you're left with WM 3, which authorizes the project to be funded by gifts or, and I'm thinking, when I say gifts, I'm thinking of donations maybe from the foundation. We don't know the answer to that yet. Moving the required monies from the A fund and the 50% match from SUNY. So it would not provide any bonding or borrowing authority. And I use those two terms differently. Bonding, I'm thinking more permanent financing going to a market for 10 years,
Right.
5 years. In-house borrowing is more short-term, could be used for cash flow issues. When the monies come back from SUNY, then repay the A fund.
so that's okay under WM3?
No, that is not permitted under WN3.
Okay.
Just to be clear, yes.
Okay. So, let me go a little bit further here. I want to call on our other two financial experts, Mr. Orman and Ms. Sinclair. Do you have recommendations either way?
Well, if this amount were being proposed to be bonded by itself, I would advise against it. It's a small enough amount that we could absorb it if we had to. That may not be the ideal, but we could absorb it, and serial bonds are a long-term commitment and would probably incur much more in cost and interest than it really warrants. But I would support in-house borrowing from the A fund to the capital reserve, which can be refunded by either the reimbursement from SUNY or by a donation if it were to be received. In other words, in New York, when you move money from a general fund into a capital reserve, it changes character, is how I describe it. It becomes capital, can only be used for capital purpose. If you borrow it, then the money does not change character. It can be replaced by other sources of funding that could be constrained to capital purpose. So you don't lose it out of your general fund. You maintain the maximum flexibility.
So that being said, we're talking about this project has a value today of $750,000.
Correct.
That we know of.
Right.
So with that in mind, are you saying that we take $325,000 or are we taking $750,000 and moving it?
If you make the commitment to provide the funding from a source, identified source, you can move the money as it's necessary. So you wouldn't have to move it all at one time.
Mr. Orman, you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I would. I think
college, I think has a commitment, if I'm not mistaken, of hard cash. And at the end of the day, we're probably talking the effect on the county less than 200,000. So in essence, we're talking about fronting and not really spending it.
Right. So I'll go back to
I
Mr.
think
Westphal.
Diane has, she may have a breakdown on the colleges as far as commitments and the funding aspect there.
And the fees associated with a bond would be minimal at this point? The fees associated with a bond would be fairly minimal?
In the scope of borrowing, yes. It'd
Okay.
be around $6,000.
Let me go back to you, Fred. In this rather lengthy resolution, and if you don't have it right in front of you, I'm just gonna show it to you. Okay. Section 13 refers to the permanence of this resolution. If we struck the word permanent, all right, we're still open to, if we had a bond, we'd bond, if we borrow, we borrow.
Yes, with a caveat, you could use, if the word permanent is struck, then that would leave in-house borrowings, and it would also leave short-term bands, bond anticipation notes, bond anticipation.
needed.
If needed, and again, the authority is only if needed. It's never a mandatory requirement to be done. The decision as to bonding is delegated by this resolution to the treasurer, so it'll be up to the treasurer's office to make the determination whether bonding had to be done or not. But to get back to the question, if you strike the word permanent, there still is the ability to bond short-term, and again, bands are only, have to be paid back within 1 year. It still also allows the flexibility to use A-fund borrowing from the A-fund to the project, and when the monies come back, either through donations or come back from the state of New York, the A-fund can be repaid.
Mr. Whitman?
Let me try and simplify this so I can understand it. Fred, if WM4 fails,
Yeah.
can we still take money out of our general fund or fund balance to fund this project?
The short answer is yes, but you can't pay it back. Okay? In order to draw down the SUNY monies, you have to have an additional cash flow. Because if the county's obligation is $375,000, bills have to be paid before the money comes back from SUNY. In order to pay the bills from SUNY, in order to pay the bills from the project, you have to have the ability to transfer the money into the A fund. And if you do it with a mechanism other than borrowing, at the end of the day, when SUNY repays the money, you're gonna have an excess balance in the capital project, right? And under New York State law, the only thing you can use that money for is another capital project. The advantage of in-house borrowings or short-term borrowings, as Suzanne has indicated, is you can pay back the A fund, still have the ability to draw down the monies from SUNY, and not have changed the character, and left an excess monies in the capital H.
So without WM4, we don't have a mechanism to transfer funds from one to the other as we need to.
The only thing you can do with WM3 passes, let me catch up with you. If WM3 passes, the only thing you can do is take donations, draw down money from the state, and transfer money into the capital H account and change its character. So you can't, if you will, get it back into the A fund.
Mr. Lattimore?
Not to belabor it, I'm not a lawyer, but I think under the terms and conditions of the elected official as a treasurer, can the treasurer, does he have duties that are expandable and do this project under his auspice?
Yes, the resolution delegates to the treasurer the ability to decide when to borrow, how much to borrow, and again, that's gonna be a function of the cash flow and the timing of the borrowing. So it's strictly a decision of the treasurer. And again, I assume the treasurer's only gonna borrow if and when monies are needed and not just.
Right now, tax money's coming in, so we are we do have a good cash flow, and it would be a good time to fund this project.
Yes. My understanding from the treasurer's office is the cash flow is good right now, so in-house borrowings would be the way to go.
Mr. Bettman?
Okay. I understand that in order to, once money is in a capital account, in order to return that to operations, then you have to have such a resolution. That's fundamentally what you're saying, and I understand that. I also understand that from what we just said, that the cash flow capability of the county at this point in time and moving forward as we look at this project in the short term, because it's relatively short term, understanding we have a commitment from the Dormitory Authority in SUNY to give this fast track reimbursement. So we're not gonna have to wait the normal 18 to 24 months. So given all of those, I can see no reason to borrow anything, short-term, long-term, or anything else. We have the cash flow, we have the expectation of the return of money. If something were to arise later, it would allow us at that point to reconsider what we're doing in terms of borrowing needs. So what I would like to do is change the language in a way that says that we want the authority to move funds when they're reimbursed from reserve back to A fund, which is the fundamental purpose of this resolution, but that we want to fund this project through internal transfer of funds at this point. So no borrowing, no bonding, no short-term borrowing, no borrowing. And so when it comes, I mean, this, I don't think this is on the floor, so I guess I can't make an amendment. But if we could have some discussion about that concept of looking internally, and then if we do have to borrow short, long-term, but it'll be short-term, but if we do have to borrow later, to look at it later.
Can I comment on that?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm hearing, I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding you. Once you fund the project, you can't then go back and borrow money, whether it's from the A fund or from bands, without having WM4 pass. Because once the project is paid for, again, I'm going to repeat myself, you can't go back out in the world and borrow it. So if you don't have the borrowing authority going into the project, you don't have the borrowing authority going out. So if you strike the word permanent from this resolution, WM4, that gets you partway to what I hear you saying. It still leaves bond anticipation notes and in-house borrowings. But I'm not sure where the body is headed, but I just wanted to make that point.
And if I may clarify, my understanding is that the timeline we're under is really to approve the project and to put something in, some process in place, for the funding and so on, so that the bids can be accepted, open, the project move forward, but that nothing in the project, or I don't know about nothing, but the project fundamentally, by and large, will be a summer project, because it won't start in any substantial way while classes are still in session. So we're looking at summer. So given that, would it not be possible to pass a resolution that instructs the treasurer and the budget managers to come back with recommendations of where the funds are going to come from, or is that not allowed? In terms of internal, or if there's no internal source?
I think you're adding another month to the calendar that we don't have.
But no, that's point of clarification. I think we do have time in terms of funding the project, do we not? Well, we certainly have a timeline in terms of paying for the project, I guess is the question.
Well, the project, I'm making an assumption that some of the engineering work has already been done in order for bids to go out. So there is a bill, if you will, out there. When it's going to be submitted or not, I don't know. What I hear you saying is that put off WM4 to a later date. Without expressing an opinion, it can be done, but it may cause some challenges.
Can I ask Mr. Bettman for some clarification? What difference would it make in approving a process in order to supply the funds today versus 30 days from now.
You have no problem supplying the funds. I want to see the funds come from internal sources as opposed to borrowing. I have an issue with borrowing, and if we can get by that, then I'm good.
Well, I think, and I may be wrong, but when I hear the term borrowing, and we're talking about taking monies out of our own funds here, we're not talking about going to the bank. We're talking about establishing a borrowing authority that allows us to reach into the general fund or wherever there is money at this time.
Yeah, I'm making a distinction between the bond anticipation notes, which are external funding, and internal transfer of funds, which is internal borrowing. I'm making, maybe that distinction doesn't exist?
But I think what I've heard is the intent is, don't do that. Don't go out and borrow. We're gonna handle this, but we need this vehicle according to the finance law in order to do it properly. Mr. Petrick?
I believe what Mr. Babin is proposing would in effect call for adjustments in the budget. We would have to redo the budget, free up that money, put it in the category for dedicated for the asbestos removal, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to restructure the whole budget to do that. And I don't believe this is the time to do it. Let's get on with the resolutions that are ahead of us and quit quarreling, okay?
Very good. Mr. Batman?
I wouldn't want to quarrel with Mr. Petcher. I don't think that we would have to redo the budget. It is any time there's a transfer of funds from anywhere, you have to transfer the funds. If we borrow, we have to create the transfer of some kind. That's what we're doing with the capital H account. And when
And I think this resolution demonstrates that. You're giving authority to do what you need to do, to provide funds for this project, give the treasurer authority under section 7 here to handle the funds as needed, as necessary. Ms. Sinclair, did you have a comment?
Well, I'm concerned that by not, and I will defer to Mr. Westfall on the means for doing this, but I would urge you to maintain the maximum flexibility in funds that you can. Because the way I'm hearing this, I'm a little concerned that we may inadvertently end up changing too much money into capital and end up with the excess, because you can't just move it back. You need some kind of formal document in order saying, we're borrowing from our general fund, these are the terms and conditions under which we are borrowing it, and then you can, and at that point it's a loan to the capital reserve. It can be paid back from monies that would properly belong in the capital reserve fund and that you would be willing to leave there to pay for the project. I would hope that you would maintain that flexibility so that we don't inadvertently end up with between $640,000 and $750,000 now in capital reserve, some of which would be used for the project, but some of which would be excess now. That's my concern. That's why I'm sitting here looking, kind of antsy.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
Mr. Lattimore?
Mr. Chairman, if for some reason we got stuck with this situation legally, can we not delete what we give in aid to the college? Let's say we give them $2 million a year and just
Well, that's a discussion for another time. Mr. Baxter?
Yeah, I think that the attorney and the county administrator has explained this really well and simple. This is simply a steering wheel that we can drive this car with, and we can turn it wherever we want. If we don't pass this resolution, we cannot turn it. I think we ought to get going, like Mr. Petcher said.
Mr. Runkle?
With that, I would like to make an amendment to this resolution to strike the word permanent from this section.
It's section 13?
13.
Page 4?
Page 4, which will help allow us to use
Gives us the flexibility.
Use our common sense and flexibility in
Second.
paying for this.
Okay.
Just a point of order, Madam Clerk, is this resolution even on the floor yet?
It was
Yeah,
approved
Joe.
by Ways
Good.
and Means.
Thank you, I haven't kept up with you. Sorry,
okay,
Mr.
Frank.
Runkle.
That was second.
I'll just sit back at this point.
Mr. Bennett?
I'd like to go on record of abstaining from this.
Very good, so noted. Any discussion on the amendment? This would be to strike the word permanent. Mr. Vitale?
This still needs a 2/3 vote though, correct?
I
This
can't
still
hear you.
needs a 2/3 vote, correct?
On the
I
amendment?
don't think the amendment.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
This
All
is
right.
the amendment.
Okay.
On the regular resolution, yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Now we go to Mr. Batman.
Yeah, I would like to offer an amendment, which, and I'm not sure exactly how to word it, but it would be in the same section, that would limit without further action of this body, the band's borrowing. So in other words, borrowing of short-term external funding.
Say that again. Could you speak into your microphone? 'Cause
Yes.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry. I'd like to offer an amendment, be in the same section, I'm not sure exactly how to word it, but that would also limit the ability to borrow short-term. So it would limit bands funding as well, borrowing.
Well, I think if you go back to section 7 and look at the authority given to the treasurer's office, I think that's addressed.
I think it's allowed, I'm suggesting that it not be. Is the more direct thing to amend section 7?
Have you checked section 7?
Yeah. Yes, but.
And that references without resorting to further action by the legislature. It also gives him latitude to address the execution and any applications needed to take care of this.
Yes, what I'm suggesting is I would like to require further action of the legislature in order to do short-term borrowing. Not interfund, not internal transfers, but borrowing from external sources.
So in other words, if I might, the legislature would have to act prior to the treasurer
Borrowing money.
money on bands.
Yes.
But not band anticipation notes, but not on in-house borrowings.
Correct.
That would be addressed, that would be an amendment to section 7.
Thank you.
If we cross the word resorting, without resorting, and change that phrase a little bit, would that satisfy your intentions of the amendment? Cross those two words out and say bringing before the county legislature
Yes.
prior to further action. Would that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody see that, Mr. Runkle?
My question is now, is this a broad statement for all borrowing that our treasurer may see fit to do to cover short-term shortages? Or are we talking specifically about
This
this
project.
issue?
This issue.
Only.
Specifically about this project
Fine.
and
Right.
this
Okay.
issue.
Is there a second for Mr. Batman's amendment?
Second.
Mr. Baxter, does everyone understand that amendment, section 7?
Yes.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have Mr. Whitman and Mr. Petcher opposed. Okay, let's go back to WM4 in its entirety. Mr. Farrell?
Ask for a roll call vote on 3 and 4, please.
Yes, sir, we will. Anyone else? Madam Clerk?
Oh, hold on.
This is specifically WM4.
This is for WM4. We need a 2/3 and roll call vote.
You're all set? Okay. Tucker Whitman,
Yes.
Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Mark Farrell,
No.
Paul Pigney is excused, Joseph Runkel,
Yes.
Keith Batman.
Yes.
Oh, wait, Runkel was yes. Yep, and Keith Batman is yes. Okay. Hans Petcher,
Yes.
Terry Baxter,
Yes.
Joseph Bennett,
Abstain?
Frank Reginelli?
Yes.
Patrick Mahonik?
Yes.
Timothy Lattimore?
If Hans is for it, I'm for it. Yes.
Michael Didio is excused. Brian Foley?
Yes.
Michael Chapman?
Yes.
Passed.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Runkle.
Chairman. I now present Ways and Means number 3. It's been through committee and approved, which sets up the capital H project for the asbestos remediation at our college.
Any discussion on WM3? This also requires a 2/3 vote.
Someone ready? Yep. Voted on Ways and Means 3, Tucker Whitman?
Yes.
Ben Vitale?
Yes.
Mark Farrell?
No.
Paul Pickney is excused. Joseph Runkle?
Yes.
Keith Batman?
Yes.
Hans Petcher?
Yes.
Terry Baxter?
Yes.
Joseph Bennett?
Abstain.
Reginelli?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Frank. Patrick Mahonik?
Yes.
Timothy Lattimore?
Yes.
Michael Didio is excused. Brian Foley?
Yes.
Michael Chapman?
Yes. It also passed.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Mr. Runkle, you have anything else?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Mahonik.
Mr. Chairman, Health and Human Services, we have 10 resolutions, but I would like to continue a discussion about bonding.
You're out of order. Done.
So I will offer HH 1 through 10 as a bundle unless anybody would like any separated.
Anybody need any of these separated? Any discussion on any of them? If not, all in favor of HH 1 through 10?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Government ops, Mr. Vitale, I believe you're up.
Government Ops has 6 resolutions to present, and number 2 and 3 are added or revised, so I present GO 1 and 2, and then GO 4, 5, and 6 as a bundle at this time.
Okay, does anyone need any of those separated? Mr. Foley?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I have GO 5 separated, please?
GO 5. Okay, so we're back to 1, 2, 4, and 6. Any discussion on any of those? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, this time I'd like to present GO 2A.
Any discussion on 2A? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And GO 3 was revised today. I'd like to present that at this time.
Mr. Bennett?
I'd like to go on record of abstaining.
Very good. Any discussion on GO 3? Mr. Batman?
Yeah, I'm curious, given the problem we just had, we just hopefully resolved with the tech building, what is the consequence if this project uncovers additional asbestos? Would this be the responsibility of the people that are undertaking the project?
But this is the performance contract for energy.
Yes. Doesn't it require physical modification? Maybe I'm mistaken, I thought it did.
I think they're gonna remove.
They're gonna remove windows as part of this project that are connected to the building, and there's money in the performance contract to do any work that'll be necessary if a little piece of wall gets disturbed in the window project.
Okay.
But we have to do the 3rd floor abatement before they can remove the windows, so this will be after that anyway.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dreyer. Mr. Batman?
And there's no boiler or ductwork involved in the project at all?
Not in the tech building? Not
Yeah,
anything.
in this project, not the,
No.
yeah, okay.
There's boiler work involved, there's not asbestos involved.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
There's
Yeah.
boiler replacement in the project, but there's no asbestos on the boilers.
Okay, and we do know that.
Right.
Okay. So, and anything they find in the walls, they will pay to rebate. rebate, abate.
Right.
Is that what I understood?
If anything gets disturbed, they know there's, for instance, asbestos in the caulking in the windows.
Yeah.
So that's already in the project to have that taken care of. Then if they, it's also in the project that if they disturb any of the interior wall, removing the windows, that they have to repair that.
Great, good, thanks.
Mr. Vitale?
So my understanding of the project would be that we're agreeing to this energy agreement, and it's the responsibility of the people doing the contracting work, all the rest of the work. So if there is anything found, it is in their scope of work to resolve it.
Okay, so be careful how I say it. There is apparently a very small chance that removing the windows, they're gonna take the windows, the whole panel out from the outside. If that disturbs any of the interior wall, repairing that is part of that. I mean, they don't foresee anything other than that happening, and that is covered. You know, something, I can't imagine anything else would happen.
Any other discussion on GO3? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, GO5, I'd like to put it before the legislature.
Any discussion on GO5? Mr. Foley?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to introduce an amendment to this resolution. I voted no with it in committee. It is a resolution that requires people to physically go into our DMV and renew their driver's license every 8 years. And it's a safety concern, obviously. So we want people, when they are presenting their ID, we want their picture to match their appearance so we can verify who they are. That's very important, and I think that this resolution gets to the heart of that. With that said, I think that there is a reasonable age where that stops being effective. So my amendment is going to be, once you hit, let's say, 80 years old, you no longer have to go down to the DMV physically. This will no longer be a requirement to go and get that picture updated every 8 years. That is,
Is there a second to that amendment? Mr. Batman? Mr. Baxter? I'm gonna ask a question of the county clerk. Seeing how New York State controls the driver's license operation, if I'm 80 years old or so, and I come in and get my driver's license renewed, would it be customary or mandatory that I get a new picture?
Well, we want to make it mandatory that every 8 years you get it. I see people at 80 years old coming in to get new passports, and passports are good for 10 years. Again, the U.S. Department of State thinks it's important enough for people to get a new picture every 10 years. So there's only 2 states in our country that allow for not taking the pictures. We're one of them, and Nevada's the other, but all other states require a new photo when you go in to renew your license. And in case you're wondering if you're changing from a driver's license to a not driver's license because you can no longer drive, you have to come in to make that change, and you have to have a new picture when you make a change to your license. So it just makes sense, and it's kind of age discrimination when you think about it, because 80 years old today, 80's the new 60.
No, 80
Thank
to
you.
80, trust me. Good try.
So I'm thinking, the more you set these guidelines is, you know, the more you set these guidelines, oh, well, wonder if somebody's gonna be 80 then, or, I just think the more details you put in it, the less effective it's gonna be, and the more changes you're gonna need over the years, because in 10 years, maybe, I don't know, again, I think people are just getting younger.
Thank you. Mr. Petcher?
Well, to be quite frank, if these people can't walk into the office to get a picture taken, I don't want them driving.
All right.
But they can get a non-driver's ID, and that's very, very good for them to have a photo ID.
Mr. Foley?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think there's a difference between, whether we're not trying to verify if they can walk or not. We're trying, it's a matter of trying to force them to go to the DMV to get a picture updated when they're 80 years old. Then the next time they're gonna have to do it when they're 88 years old. I just don't see the need for that, you know. I think that's a mistake. Now, whether or not they should be driving is not up for debate within this resolution urging the state. So that can be brought up at a different time. You know, another thing I would like to bring up is I did speak to Sue Dwyer a couple of times previously to this. And as far as I had heard previously, there were no objections to this. As far as if I wanted to, you know, present it, there was no issue. So I'm surprised to hear something today, Sue, and I will say that.
No, I brought up the whole non-driver's ID, and, you know, it's up to you in the end to pass it or not. Is it gonna ruin the whole resolution to make that? No, I don't think so. At least people will have it every 8 years up until that point, and I think we're safer for that. So.
Okay.
Mr. Bevan?
Yeah, just want to point out, all we're doing here is recommending, we're not passing, this is not a local law, this is not a local requirement.
No.
We're simply passing
Right,
forward, and I think the intent.
to support the clerk's.
Yeah, and I think the intent is to say, those, when the legislature considers it, they may want to consider if there is a point at which, and that's all this says.
Mr. Lattimore?
I just want to compliment Sue on doing a great job at the clerk's office, and then anything that she suggested, like the new seating arrangement that you have down there, it's gone over well, and I just like to support her in running a good operation.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions or comments relative to the amendment on the floor? Mr. Baxter?
Yeah. Can I call the question on the
You
amendment?
certainly may, sir. Do you have Mr. Foley's amendment so that you can read it back?
Mr. Foley would like it to amend it. I'm not sure where you want to put said amendment, but you want it so that when a person reaches the age of 80, they do not need to get their picture taken again.
Right, they're no longer.
Required to have a picture.
Right, they're going to.
Renew their picture.
Okay, no requirement after age 80.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The amendment is defeated. Let's go back to the original amendment. G05. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Before we go into planning, I would like to, at this time, ask if there's anyone else that would like to speak to the public hearing on maintaining the room tax for the next 3 years. If not, the public hearing is closed at 8:10. We have to vote on that right now?
No, we can wait till it comes up in the order.
Pardon me?
We can wait till it comes up in the order.
All right, we might as well vote on it. If there's no objections, I'd like to take a vote on that public hearing or on the local law. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now, if we could move into Mr. Farrell in planning.
Planning has 2 resolutions been through committee. I'd like to bundle PL1 and PL2.
Okay, any discussion on PL1 and PL2? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Whitman, Public Works.
Public Works has 6 resolutions for tonight. PW5 was tabled. I would like to bundle 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, unless anyone would like one singled out.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
PW7 requires a 2/3 vote, which is why I singled it out.
Okay. Any discussion on PW7 before we will have a roll call vote? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Set. Sure. Tucker Whitman,
Yes.
Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Mark Farrell,
Yes.
Paul Pinkney is excused, Joseph Runkel,
Yes.
Keith Batman,
Yes.
Hans Petcher,
Yes.
Terry Baxter,
Yes.
Joseph Bennett,
Yes.
Frank Reginelli,
Yes.
Patrick Mahonik,
Yes.
Timothy Lattimore,
Yes.
Michael Didio is excused, Ryan Foley,
Yes.
Michael Chapman.
Yes. Passed. Thank you. Moving on to judicial, Mr. Baxter.
Mr. Chairman, Judicial and Public Safety has 5 resolutions. I would bundle 1 through 5 if there's no objection.
Anyone, Mr. Bennett?
I'd like number 2 separated, please.
Number 2.
And I would like number 1 separated.
Number 1.
I would then bundle 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5. Any discussion on JP 3, 4, and 5? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Baxter. JP 1?
JP 1, authorizing to increase the part-time grant program coordinator position in the DA's office to full-time, to implement the CART, Crimes Against Revenue grant, and assist existing support staff.
Any discussion on JP 1? Mr. Batman?
Yeah, I remain to have concerns with this position for several reasons. The first is that this position represents somewhere in the neighborhood of 35% of the grant. The position is an administrative position that will administer the grant, track the grant, report on the grant, and enter data on the grant. In my experience, that kind of expenditure for a grant as a percentage of the total is unprecedented. A second reason I have concerns about it is that the grant specifies what each position in the grant is supposed to do. So there's not flexibility to use these positions in other ways. So, and my next concern is that if this position is administering this grant and there's insufficient work to enter data, to report on the grant, to administer the grant, then there's going to be a tendency and pressure to use that position for other work. The grant prohibits that. And I'm concerned that pressure will lead us to do things that are inappropriate, given the restrictions of the grant. Finally, we still don't have a good sense of whether or not this work is going to return the kind of money we're expending. And so we're kind of buying this without proof that it's going to work. That concerns me as well, because it puts the county on the hook for the money. So those are my concerns. I think you've all probably heard them before. Given that, I do bow to the will of the body. I do understand that the majority of legislators, they want to move forward with this, and I bow to that willingness, or rather that desire. But I do have great reservations.
Any other discussion? Mr. Lattimore?
I believe that this position, which is funded, if the funding goes away, this position goes away. Is that not
That's
correct?
written in the resolution.
I just want public to know.
Any other discussion on JP 1? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Farrell? Okay. Mr. Baxter, I think you got another one in here, right?
JP 2, authorizing the sheriff of Cayuga County to employ seasonal personnel for the Marine unit. Somebody had a question on that?
Mr. Bennett?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not that I am against this position or these things, but I would like to see a more aggressive approach into the possibility of boating while intoxicated, especially during holiday seasons and special events. And so, this isn't to drive the tourists out of here, but it's to protect the people out on the waterways. Once an accident happens out there, 9 out of 10 times, a lot of them are fatalities.
I'd like to see a little more aggressiveness taken towards this.
Okay, so noted. Anyone else have any comments, questions about JP2? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Baxter?
No, sir.
All right, so we have Ledge 1. This is a declaration asking that the New York State Public Service Commission consider the objections of the residents and provide a mitigation plan that would minimize the negative impacts of the proposed 14.5-mile transmission line on the residents of the town of Troop and the town of Brutus in Cayuga County. Any discussion? Mr. Patrick?
Well, once again, gotta state, we ought to keep out of these things. Let the proper authorities make the decision and get on with it, between that and business. What we're doing is, we're slowly, starting to build a reputation as being anti-business. We had, the resolution, the local law on the, spreading of fracking waste. As originally written, it probably would have banned the gas production in Cayuga County. It had to be amended, you know, but some people wanted to push it through that way. We have this deal with the gas storage over the other side of the lake. Again, we're up against industry. Let the people who are supposed to make the decision, let them make the decision. And again, we're doing it. We don't need the reputation. We're spending $350,000 we give to cider or whatever it is, to procure industry, and here we are passing resolutions which in effect say you might not be welcome there. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Lattimore?
I think the taxpayers, the property taxpayers and the ratepayers, this is a public utility, and I think that if we feel it's gonna drive the cost up, or there's a better way of doing it, I think the governor is taking that approach that instead of just putting up new wires where all wires were, there might be better, smarter grids to put up, and he's put a lot of money into that program, and I think we should follow the governor's blueprint.
Anyone else have any, Mr. Baxter?
Yes, this resolution only at request that they show some concern for the public. Mr. Bass from NISAG, he agrees with our resolution. I think it must be okay to pass, and it's not anti-business.
Mr. Runkle?
Yes, Town of Senate has a large manufacturer in Owens, Illinois, which is similar to Nucor, which is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation. And I personally can attest to the catastrophes that happen when there's a power outage or a dip or a brownout at that facility. And I think what NISAG is doing and IMO is doing to promote reliability of power for Auburn and the Auburn area is good. And so for that reason, I will be opposing this particular legislation.
Anyone else? Mr. Lattimore?
I totally agree with the reliability, and I think that the longer lines that we have, the better chance we have with these storm events to have an outage, or to have a brown situation. So I think on-site generation, as the governor has stated, is
But Mr.
very important.
Lattimore, we're not talking about on-site generation at this point. We're talking about this particular resolution.
We've got 3 or 4 right-of-ways now. This is one more right-of-way.
Anyone else? Mr. Foley, I saw your hand.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, in regards to Hans' comments, anytime we pass any resolution that urges something else to happen is basically what we're doing here. Now, we've had several resolutions like that in the past that I haven't heard Hans speak out against before. So it only appears his... Really? Okay. Anyway, I think that we should support this resolution, and legislators should speak on things that they oppose all the time.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? If not, all in favor of Ledge 1?
Aye.
I have a show of hands. Okay.
Who's against?
And those opposed? They count me.
4, right?
Yep. So the resolution is passed. Is there any other business to be brought before the body? Mr. Bennett,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
We did that. Right after the close the hearing. Aha.
Miss that one.